Hi guys, Righteous Rama here, bringing you your dose of truth for the day, and that is this. Where rather, it's the answer to this. The answer to this question of, Lord, why haven't you brought me into my promises yet? Why have you not brought me into my promised land yet? So, of course, when we hear promised land, we're thinking about the Bible reference to, Jerusalem, the promised land, and we're thinking about the Israelites leaving Egypt. So they're in a place of bondage. They're going through a journey through the wilderness for 40 years into the promised land. So we're like, okay, Lord, I've been in bondage. I've been having a hard time. Now I've been going through this journey of waiting. I'm trying to work on myself. I'm trying to perfect myself. I'm trying to better myself so I can be in this new place that you promised me. I'm tired of being where I am now. I want to be where you told me I'm going to be. Whether a prophet told you at church, whether you just had it in a dream, whether somebody encouraged you at the supermarket, you know that there's more for you than this. But it's been a long time. Like the Israelites, it's been 4 decades. It's been 40 years. So I'm going to tell you all the reason why you have not gotten into your promised place yet. And guess what? It's nobody's fault but yours. It's not anybody's fault. That's the good news. It's not nobody's fault but yours. So at least you know you can stop blaming God and stop blaming the word and stop blaming the man and stop blaming your haters. And it's really nobody's fault but yours. So if you look at the Israelites example, the Israelites, the Hebrews, the Jewish people, before the law, Old Testament. So, the Hebrews were slaves in Egypt. And then God delivered them and he took them through a 40-year journey. And so that 40-year journey, it holds a secret. It holds a key as to why you might be still going through your wilderness experience, as some churches would say. So I was reading the story and everything, and I noticed some themes as to why it took so long. Now the journey from Egypt to Jerusalem, if you actually look it up right now on Google Maps or whatever, however you look it up, a MapQuest, it's really an 11-day journey. I don't know if that's by foot. I'm sure it's by foot, of course, actually. But I don't know if it includes like an 8-hour, nap every day. But it's an 11-day trip. But it took the Israelites 40 years. And that's what some of you all feel. Some of you all feel like, well, my best friend, we both went to middle school together, elementary, middle, high school together. She married her high school sweetheart. She has 3 kids by now. She has a thriving career, all the things. And I'm sitting here still, 40 years old, and I don't have any of those things. What made her wilderness this big, or no wilderness at all? She went from bondage to promised land. And how come mine is this big or this big or this big or this big or this big? So according to the Israelites, there are a few reasons it could be. One reason God did not take them immediately. One reason God made it take 40 years instead of 11 days was because of their fear. They had a fearful mindset. They had a fear mentality, and they had what we call a grasshopper mentality. A grasshopper mentality. So for 40 days, not 40 years, but for 40 days, they sent some spies to go spy out the land. Well, the land full of milk and honey, the big grapes and everything. And one of them reported this. So this is in Genesis. So they brought to the people of Israel a bad report of the land that they had spied out, saying, the land through which we have gone to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants. And other people that we saw in it are of great height. So they were intimidated, like the people that we got to go fight to get the land, to get the promises, they're really tall. And we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, who are giants. And we seem to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seem to them. So like when I saw how big they were, I felt like a grasshopper. And I know that's how they saw us as grasshoppers as well. So one reason you all not in the promised land yet is because you're insecure. You're easily intimidated. And I won't say easily intimidated. You were right to be intimidated because the stuff that you've seen, you're like, these people are big. These people, they're connected to like mayors and governors and judges and doctors and lawyers and engineers, and their parents went to Ivy League schools. Their grandparents went to Ivy League schools. They're in fraternities and sororities and high society. And I'm just this little girl I'm just a country girl from Alabama. My mama got a high school diploma, or my dad was a drug addict, or you keep naming all the reasons you're too small to be successful. You're too little. I'm like a grasshopper. And so God's like, I want to put you in circles where you can actually dominate these people. But in your head, you're like, nah, God, I'm too small. I'm too ignorant. I talk too country. You know, I got a stutter. I got issues. And so God's not intimidated by anybody, because God's like, ain't nobody bigger than me. I don't care how well connected your family is. I don't care how many doctors and lawyers in your family. I'm God. Nobody's bigger than me. But you're insecure. So God's like, I would have took you to that place already by now, but you're too insecure. So that's one reason that you are not in the promised land yet, because you have a slavery mentality. The other reasons are probably not important for this video. But another thing, I'll just touch on the slavery mindset. So when they were in the wilderness, they started to complain and grumble. That's the other reason. They were murmuring, complaining, ungrateful. All we had to eat is this manna. Manna is, what is this? It's like the bread from heaven. It was like, what is this? Fall from heaven. So God would bring down manna every day, except on Saturday. They had to collect double on Friday because they couldn't collect on Saturday because it was going to be the Sabbath, day of rest, no work. So they was like, man, all we eat is this manna all day long. Back when we was in slavery, we had melons, we had onions, we had leeks, we had other things to eat other than this plain old manna all day long. They're forgetting that this is the miracle from heaven that you're being sustained by, something that comes from heaven, not a factory, not a field, but from heaven. And they were just longing for the old stuff. And so some of you all, God got a husband for you, God got a wife for you, but here you go. I mean, I've been single for 3 years now. I've been celibate for 3 years now. At least when I had my boyfriend, when I was at Ray house, I had my rent paid, light bill paid, I had sex. And I'm just sitting there just celibate. At least I had a man to hold at night. And I could hold my pillow at night and watch Netflix and chill by myself. And so you're ungrateful. You're like, you don't think about how Ray used to cheat on you, and how Ray used to bring you STDs, and how Ray used to have women calling you and embarrassing you. You didn't think about how Ray used to put hands on you. You didn't think about all the fights and arguments you and Ray had. All you think about is, man, back when I was in slavery, I had onions. You was in slavery, you were moving bricks and building pyramids. What are you talking about? How soon you forget how ungrateful you are. And then some of you all, you make easy, quick money selling drugs. You're like, man, when I was in the streets, when I was in the strip club, man, I made $1,000 in one day, and I'm sitting here paycheck to paycheck, made $1,000 in 2 weeks, and I'm just struggling. And back when I was in the world, I made quick money. So some of you all, the reason you're not in your promised land yet is because you're in the wilderness complaining about how good it was back then. So your mind is still back. Your mind is still enslaved. Your mind is still back in the slavery place. You have people in jail. They say they be institutionalized. They be like thinking about they just kind of stuck in jail mentally. Even they're free, they still think like a person in jail. So the issue that some of you all, it's like you're in the wilderness. You're gonna be there soon. Eventually, you're gonna make more money. You're gonna just make $1,000 every 2 weeks for the rest of your life. It's just temporary until God gets you to your promised place. But you're thinking about, back then I had easy money, but you had hell to pay as well. You was in prison. You was beat. You was going through. You was crying at night saying, Lord, deliver me from this place. Lord, deliver me from slavery. Lord, deliver me. So you keep forgetting that it wasn't all good, or else you wouldn't been crying to get out. They had been crying to God to get them out of jail. They were out of jail, not out of jail, out of imprisonment from the Egyptians. They were begging to get free. So never forget, even though you're doing, even though it was some good days right there, it was still slavery, okay? So that's the reason you all are stuck. And so what God is doing right now, back to the intimidation, the grasshopper mentality, God has been he's been stepping stoning you. He's been stone stepping you. He's been taking you from one experience to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And then you're going to start to think, I'm not such a grasshopper after all, because I had this experience over here in New York. I had this experience over here in California. I had this experience over here with this doctor, this experience over here with this judge. And you start to say, okay, I'm not so small after all. I can hang with the big dogs. I rub elbows with the bishops and with the lawyers. And you start to see yourself a little differently. So what God's working on right now, God's not intimidated by nothing in your future. He knows you're intimidated by it. So what he's doing is he's letting you meet people along the way. God talked to me about the 3 X's before. Your experience, exposure, expectations. Your exposure, your experience, your expectations. What you're exposed to determines your experience, and your experience determines your expectations for the future. So what God is doing right now for some of you all in your wilderness, he's exposing you to things so that you can experience some things, so that you can expect some things. Still let you win one battle here. Like, okay, I handled that fight pretty good. Then you have a bigger fight with a bigger giant, then a bigger giant, a bigger giant. Like, okay, I can handle all these giants. I ain't said to nobody, Because you realize that God is backing you. God is feeding you with bread from heaven. God is fighting all your enemies for you. Y'all, the people that were fighting against y'all, they fought against so many people in the Bible. You're like, how do you fight all these people? They was fighting with the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. They were fighting all these people, y'all. And it wasn't them. God was fighting for them. So I know you're intimidated. I know you want to like be up top, but your mindset is too Mississippi. It's too storefront. Your mindset is too grasshopper. You gotta think big. Don't think, I'm just from the country. I talk slow. You know, I don't wear the fancy clothes. I don't drive the nice cars. God's like, I don't care about all that. Ain't nothing on earth nicer than what I got in heaven. There is nothing on earth that nobody is wearing or driving or living that's better than than the least thing in heaven. Nothing. So God's like, y'all think this stuff is all? This stuff is nothing. This stuff is nothing compared to what I got up in heaven. So he's actually offended. God is offended that you think so high of these giants that he thinks so low of. He's like, these people ain't hitting on nothing. So when you get free in your mind and start to believe in what God sees about you and what God thinks about you and what God has planned for you, your journey don't have to be 40 years. It can be 11 days. It can be tomorrow. If your expectation is healed, God can bring it to you tomorrow. You can meet your husband tomorrow. You can get that call tomorrow. You can get that acceptance letter tomorrow. You can book that client tomorrow. But your mindset has to leave that Egyptian slave mindset. Leave that anything is possible. The Bible says, eye has not seen or his ear heard the things which God has prepared for those, you know. And then also it says, he can do greater, much more than we can even ask or think. We can't even imagine the thing that God can do for us. So I'm telling you, I break the limits off your mindset. Change your slave mindset. Think big, think huge. And then not just think big and huge, and then know that God can do even more than that. The biggest you can think, let's say you could this, here's your mindset over here, right? Let's say your mindset is this big. God can do more than that. He's like out of the box. You can't even see how big my hands are right now. So God can take you to a place. I'm telling you, I'm in that season now, y'all. I'm in the wilderness right now. I'm going to the promised land. I'm headed that way. But I'm seeing where I came from. I'm like, oh, that's what God was doing. It's supposed to be around these people, these experiences, these minds, these environments. And now I'm starting to think that anything is possible. I can do it all. Thank you guys for watching. Please share, subscribe. It's Righteous Rhema. Bye-bye.